Getting a strong start. So you've targeted, you've found a job that you're interested in, and now you've landed it. How do you make sure that you go in and really make an impression and ensure that your summer job will be a meaningful experience? So let's go over some few tips. First, let's look at your first week, which is the most exciting and nerve-wracking time. You're starting to understand what it's like to work for this company. Who are your new colleagues? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the things that you're really excited about? A lot going on. So here are a few tips that you can keep in consideration. First is to arrive early. You want to figure out in the first week, when is the typical time people arrive? It's likely that your manager has shared with you a start time. If they haven't, you can feel free to ask, but I would usually arrive about 5 minutes before this time. If you get there and you see that there's already a room full of people sitting at their desks, this probably means that you should arrive a little bit earlier, but you'll start to feel that out as it goes along. A lot of companies nowadays also have flex day programs, so people start and end at different times to meet their needs. Of course, this is going to be very different if you're doing some type of a shift. So if you are working at a grocery store or anything like that, there's probably a very strict start and end date. So you need to make sure that you're understanding the norms of the place that you're entering. Next is to discuss your goals and priorities. So let's say that you are in your first week, this is the first ever internship that you are going to have. What you want to do is speak with your direct boss to discuss what you are going to accomplish over the summer and what are some of the priorities that are important to he or she. You want to be able to express what it is that you want to get out of the experience, if there's any areas for development or any types of work that you really like, but also keeping in mind it is more likely that you are in a position where there needs to be a business that is run. And so you need to understand what is important to the company that you're joining. The next thing you want to do is set up one-on-ones. Ask your boss if they have any indication on who it is that you're going to be working for on a day-to-day basis. Set up 15-minute to 30-minute chats with these people to introduce yourself, to let them know what you have came here to do, what your main priorities are, and to ask if there's anything you can do to help. This will show that you are proactive and people will be excited to work with you. The next tip is say yes to lunch. So I know, especially in the first week of a job, it's really nerve-wracking. And to be honest, sometimes you get to 12 o'clock and all you want to do is go into a corner, put on your headphones, and eat your lunch in silence. I would encourage you to be very open during this week and to make an active effort to socialize. People want to see you as more than just a one-dimensional kind of work person, right? So if someone takes the time to ask you for lunch or you see a group of people sitting together, feel free to join in, to introduce yourself, and to say yes. And lastly is develop an understanding for your boss's preferences and style. Some bosses, for example, they want to communicate all the time, so there'll be a lot of back and forth. Other times, they're very busy. They'll set a specific, maybe a one-on-one once a week, and that's the way that they like to communicate and filter all the information. So develop an understanding of how your boss works with others and their style, and when in doubt, feel free to ask. So now let's go into the first 1 to 3 months. So when we're looking at the first few months, how are you going to get a good start? So one thing that I would recommend is that you ask questions. So this is going to be the time where people are going to be the most open to any question that you might have. You want to understand the company acronyms, how everything works, and if there's anything that needs clarification, this would be the time to do it. My next tip would be to raise your hand. Recently, at my organization, we had a new joiner who did just that, and it really impressed everyone in the room. Within the first week, someone had come to us and said, "Does anyone want to lead the next team meeting?" All you would have to do is share a bit about yourself and your background, and then facilitate all of the speakers. And to our surprise, someone who had just joined was the first person to pop up their hand. This got an opportunity for them to get in front of everyone else. Everyone saw this person as proactive, friendly, and open, and made a great first impression. Obviously, all companies are different, and depending on the type of position, if it's just a kind of summer job where you need to do what you're told and everything's very structured, there may be different opportunities. But whenever you have an opportunity to volunteer or say yes, I would absolutely recommend that you take advantage of that. The next would be seek feedback. So you want to make sure there is open communication with your boss about how things are going and appear to be very open-minded in terms of receiving feedback and giving feedback as well. So you can directly ask for feedback at certain points. Some places have more formal processes, and that's okay too, but you want to keep it an open conversation to see how things are going. Next would be to identify advocates and mentors. So these people are really going to help you up on this journey, right? So this could be your direct boss, someone that you work with on a day-to-day basis, maybe someone who's been at the company a bit longer than you. But you want to identify who are the people that are going to support you, who see your value, and are going to help you along the way. These people can end up being lifelong connections. Think of this as more than a summer job. What are the relationships that you can build that can carry you throughout your career? And lastly, document your achievements and learnings. This is super, super important, and not a lot of people do it. So one thing I've noticed, particularly in people that are just starting, is when I ask them about their previous summer jobs or internships that they've done, usually they say something like, I don't really know what to write on my resume because I was just doing a lot of administrative work and I was never the lead here. That's not true. There are a lot of opportunities that you can pull from and have value from, and likely you've just forgotten. So the best way to do it is when you're actually in the job, whenever you feel that you have maybe learned something significant, there has been a challenge that you've overcome, or you've made some kind of great achievement, just document it. Open the notes page on your phone and keep that documented. What was the situation? What was the task? What is it that you did? What was the outcome and what was the learning? Just keep a running note of these, and then at the end of your internship, you'll be able to update your resume accordingly, and you'll have a set of talking points for your next interview. And that brings me to after the job. So you are wrapped up for the summer, and you want to make sure that you're leaving on a good note. So the first thing would be to always leave gracefully. If you are in a position where maybe you didn't think it was the best experience and every part of you just wants to say, goodbye, I'm leaving, that's not the way to go. You never know. It's a very small world, and you want to come across as very professional. So you want to thank your manager for the experience. You want to recognize those who helped you along the way and express gratitude. And you want to make sure that you don't leave before you actually leave. And what does that mean? That means you give it in your 2 weeks notice and your work starts to plummet. You're not really engaged. You start taking longer breaks. That is the last time people are going to remember you. And people generally remember things at the end of an experience. And so you want to leave on a good note and give your full self until the last day. The next point I have is provide references. So what I mean by that is that you can also go and make sure that this relationship is two ways. So sometimes you might want to add people on LinkedIn at the end of your experience and provide them with a reference. This will show that you are proactive and will encourage them to do the same. Offer to help in any way that you can. Sometimes there's also an opportunity for you to keep working for this place part-time when you go back to school. This is absolutely something that would be appropriate to ask if it's something that you would like to do. If you hope to come back in the next summer, express this. If you hope to work there full time when you graduate, express this. You can't just imagine that people know what you were thinking, right? And so you want to be very clear about how you're feeling at the end of it. As I said, follow these tips, express gratitude to people that helped you along the way, and think of this as a lifelong relationship. Because it's really rarely the end. So you might be 19 right now, and this is the first summer job that you've had, and you think, the people that I've worked with today, I doubt I'm going to come across them again. But you never know. Perhaps they end up switching companies into an opportunity that's really interesting to you a few years from now. Perhaps they end up being your friends. You never know. You want to keep it positive and end on a positive note. So that's all I have for this module. To access a qualified youth coach who can help you find your ideal job, internship, or co-op, contact us. We have top quality coaches, flexible monthly plans, and practical support.